This episode is about the growth and change as shown in the astrology from the full moon on April 16th, 2022 to the new moon on April 30th, 2022. The title of this section of the lunar series is Dancing into New Dimensions of Reality. And the secondary part of that is move to the music and let the music move you. So it works in both ways. And I'll explain a little bit more about what that means as we're moving out of the full moon in the waning half of the hemicycle. And for those of you on Wisdom who find this video later find this video on YouTube, you'll see the two charts and my notes that go along with the talk. And so the moon, as it's coming out of the 27th degree of Libra, the moon reveals that there's two levels of being operating at the same time for the same greater good. So, for example, yang and yin combine to represent the oscillations of wholeness. And another level of that is that spiritual will and the love principle work together for a single purpose as well, supporting a transcendent realization. And so during this cycle, the moon transits all of the planets except for Mercury and Uranus. So it's almost like our character is getting, our personal character is getting infused with spiritual energies that will get to recognize new distinctions in the next, well, get to recognize and act from new distinctions and new transcendent awarenesses in reality after the new moon in the upcoming the upcoming hemicycle. The waxing half comes in the first half of May. So during the cycle, the moon transits all the planets except Mercury and Uranus. So within the context of the placements, it implies cultural reorientations to new intuitive guidance for decision-making based on the receiving of new individualized values. So let me make sure I'm sharing my screen here for this video. Here's the notes. All right. And again, within the context of the placements, it implies the moon transiting all the planets except Mercury and Uranus implies cultural reorientations to new intuitive guidance for decision-making based on the receiving of new individualized values, which will be seeded at the upcoming new moon, which when we say individualized values, we're talking about, well, individualized and enduring values, because it'll be a new moon in Taurus. A primary or very important transition that's happening over this hemicycle, half of the cycle, is that Pluto is moving from direct to retrograde. And so it implies an introduction to the retracing of steps towards an absolute personal transformations and cultural change. And this presents new opportunities to listen, revealed by listening and like whole body listening. So rather than rushing out to go do and dominate, so in other words, rather than pushing to dominate, it might serve us better to slow down and cultivate. So Mercury transits Uranus and the lunar north node in the next cycle. So Mercury is spanning the second half of Taurus during this hemicycle from the full moon to the new moon. And it will be entering Gemini on April 30th, maybe the 29th. And this will be about this part of the hemicycle will be about developing and refining and validating a new approach to how you live your life, perhaps. stimulating, grounding, embodiment, and integration of higher intuitive capacities and values. So yeah, we're practicing during this phase, we're practicing internalizing what we want to be moving forward. Because that's especially true with regards to the Jupiter Neptune conjunction that just happened literally the last couple of days. Jupiter is beginning to move away from Neptune, which will get a little bit more clear in the next couple of weeks. So Venus, Jupiter, Neptune. Jupiter is separating from its conjunction with Neptune. A freshly informed social mind is moving forward. Venus transits Neptune and is exactly conjunct Jupiter. This newly informed social mind is infusing our individual gut instincts towards the 20th degree of Pisces, which is about recognizing individual capacities to perceive abundance. And now, not just the cultural mind is moving forward, but our instinctive value perceptions are also. Let's see if I can move this part of the screen out of the way. There we go. R2. Venus and Mars are involved in this big time because Mars is in Pisces also. And Venus is moving through these conjunctions with Neptune and Jupiter. And so Venus and Mars, when we look at those two energies combined, it suggests new individual alignments and alliances require emotional mastery and mastery of dedication. And they become informed by greater cultural and archetypal awarenesses. So individually, maybe awareness of living archetypes informs individual activity. So if we can perceive, if we can learn from nature, we'll do well. We'll do well if we can learn from nature. And respond with nature. So here we get this greater, it refers back to the title, the theme of this hemicycle, dancing into new dimensions of reality. And so as we are in this phase, the new moon that we're moving towards on April 30th is in the 11th degree of Taurus, which is 1 degree behind Mercury at the April 16th full moon. And so this implies distinctions and recognitions between layers of being from the full moon are becoming seeds for new growth. So there's another wink to this idea of slow down and cultivate rather than push to dominate. The new moon on the 30th is a bowl shape. It's a bowl pattern. And the midpoint of the bowl is in the 30th degree of Pisces. So it's edged by Mercury and Pluto, Mercury at the front and Pluto at the back. And all this kind of emphasizes cultural transformations and the need to centralize on, centralize around what is impermanent and ineffable. The bowl shape concentration of the power in this bowl calls for the need to differentiate and archetypalize at the same time, to create individualized patterns and structures to transmute emotional energies that are erupting and collapsing at the speed of thought. So lots of things happening and lots of things to not necessarily hold on to, but to notice, listen to, and let go of. Chiron, alone in Aries, as the sun leaves Aries in the couple days after the full moon, so maybe the 19th or 20th of April, the sun will be leaving Aries and going into Taurus, and so Chiron will be alone in Aries, and there'll be the impulse to over-identify with the other. It calls us to relax and find peace through recognizing and ritualizing oscillations between polarities. So polarization is not a bad word, even though in the cultural mind it's often used to describe how things push against each other, but dancing doesn't happen unless there's pushing against each other, right? So learning to relax and find peace through the oscillation and the placement and presence of oneself in the spectrum between the polarities. I mean, that practice is itself a transcendent realization, right? To be aware of the bigger picture while we're in the presence of the present. So that's all I got for this talk. Thank you very much, viewers of my YouTube channel. I hope this video is useful and helpful. If you got value from this, you're invited to come follow me on my wisdom channel. That's where I'm most active these days. And I hope to continue to do these YouTube videos and share this content with my wisdom community and with you all here on YouTube. And that is all I have for you today. Many blessings as you develop your skills of dancing into these new dimensions of reality. All right, cheers. Thank you very much.